I think, so we're here to talk about reimagining responsible tech for the era of generative AI. I think it's an interesting time to be talking about responsible AI. It's only been, like a day, I think, since the US and the UK refused to sign an ethics and inclusive-centric international agreement at this week's Global AI Summit in Paris. Last week, Google removed guidelines for barring its AI from being used in surveillance and weapons systems. Meta is no longer going to fact-check content on its platforms. There is a lot of challenge here. There's a lot of change. But we included this lens in our 2025 Looking Glass because we believe that this matters, still matters now more than ever. The businesses that think about their impact of their tech on the world around us send a really strong and positive message to their employees, to their customers, and to everyone that it's the outcomes of the work that we do that matter the most, regardless of what the technologies are that are involved. We also know that the generative AI era exacerbates a lot of the challenges that many of us are already seeing and used to dealing with at a scale not previously imagined. I see this every day in my work as a cybersecurity engineer. It's made things extremely interesting. So, privacy breaches. They're one of those things. Last year, we all discovered that LinkedIn had been taking our data and training its AI on it. They belatedly added an opt-out button, but at that point, some of the reputational damage had been done. DeepSeek, which is one of the current models that's making waves, had a breach of its databases shortly after it launched and became popular, especially the R1 model. And this exposed everybody's carefully crafted prompts, multi-paragraph ones, the way we've all been taught to do, lots of personal and sensitive internal information, exposed it entirely to the internet. There's shadow AI. This was alluded to earlier. Like a lot of other shadow IT processes that many of us are probably used to dealing with, employees have access to tools like ChatGPT. There are a lot of embedded AI systems in all kinds of things at the moment. And it's really important for us to be able to, as businesses, identify and pave these kinds of desire paths for our employees wherever we can, because people do want to use these. And we need people to have the tools that they need to work effectively. We also need to be able to do it safely and ensure that our information is going places where we understand that it is going. There's misleading and harmful content. It's become extremely easy to create believable content quickly and cheaply. For individuals, for businesses, for traditional media outlets, it's everywhere. And this can cause significant confusion in a time that is already incredibly turbulent. It results in a loss of confidence for people in terms of what they're presented with. And with media literacy skills varying wildly from person to person, how can we know what anyone might walk away believing about us, about our businesses, about the world from what they're presented with? And how do we make it easy to cut through the increasing noise? Mm-hmm. There's automated decision-making, and that introduces compliance risks as well. Without human oversight and governance, automated decisions have the potential for massive reputational damage to organizations. Health insurers in the US, for example, have used AI-powered decisions with no human oversight or explainability to deny cover to their customers. That has consequences. There are public welfare scandals. It's happened in the Netherlands. Here in Australia, we still remember what happened with robo-debt as well. Businesses that experiment with AI need to recognize that responsible tech is not a thing that is bolted on. It is not a PR exercise. It is a mindset that needs to be embedded when we embark upon the work that we're about to do. Its development needs to include all parts of the business, from the customers to the developers to the shareholders. It should reflect the values that we hold and play out in our practices and in our culture in the everyday. Without it, organizations risk financial penalties, reputational damage, and eroded consumer trust. In the Looking Glass, we identify some of the signals that we're seeing that, we believe businesses should analyze and adopt. I've pulled out a few here. I've avoided pulling out the security-related ones because I am not going to take an enormous amount of time to do that. And if you want me to do that, I can do that over there. I have a significant number of opinions, and I will be happy to share them with you and talk with you about them. But I chose a couple here that I think are worth thinking through in light of all of the things that we have spoken about here on this stage today and are going to talk about soon. One of them is ethical frameworks for identifying and managing the risks of AI. There There are so many of these. Adapt and adopt whatever you can from the options that are out there. There are many. But the important thing here is to work with the business and your customers to ensure that what you're adopting is not lifted wholesale from somewhere else, but reflects the things that you actually want to achieve. And it makes sure that it reflects also your intended reputation and what you want to share with the world. So when you're looking for these things, look for examples that provide a systematic process for identifying and documenting and mitigating AI-specific risks in the products that you develop and that you use. And also, when you're enforcing this or trying to, look for things that actually can be enforced, not things that are just statements. Take them seriously, because businesses really differentiate themselves when customers can see that these frameworks are not a PR exercise. They're reflected in the product that they receive. Privacy first is another one that's kind of close to my heart as well. We are living in the age of privacy breaches, you may have noticed. But that means that privacy-first mentalities can be a strategy that is core to your customer value proposition. Customers are becoming increasingly educated, either by choice or by force, about how companies use and protect their data or don't. And they will gravitate towards the brands that they trust, won't treat their personal and sensitive information like a product. So privacy first, and I, again, will happily discuss any of these things with you because I'm firing through a bunch of topics that I feel very passionately about. But privacy first can involve data minimization, making sure that you have and collate what you need to do the job you're doing and you understand why you have it. Proactive security measures and access controls around that information so that your databases of prompts aren't floating around out there. Transparency and user consent, and compliance with privacy regulations, which leads me to the last point that I've chosen to pull out here, which is AI safety and regulation. There were, as many of you may know, updates in 2024 to the Australian Privacy Act, which we have been waiting for I think over a decade now. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And while in my personal opinion, these reforms don't contain all of the things that I would have hoped that they do, they are causing interesting changes. I mean, it's the first update to this act since 1988. So, it acknowledges the existence of the internet, which is great. We probably need that. But they do also introduce changes that are meaningful for a lot of businesses. And it's a wonderful chance to take the opportunity to look at the privacy practices that you're using internally and ensure that whatever has been changed reflects that in your business. It's a good time to take stock, what with everything else going on. By understanding all of these signals and by acting on these opportunities, pretty crucially, businesses can truly, I think, leverage their data for competitive advantage and for innovation. There are plenty of other trends, some of which will intersect with the things that people have already spoken about here. But as I said earlier, if you want to discuss any of these through the responsible tech lens, you can come and talk to us over there about this in the breakout session afterwards. Be very happy to chat about any of this. And when it comes to these principles, Thoughtworks has applied many of them when working with Swan, as you can see here. We built for them, with them, an AI-powered home voice security assistant. So it's a voice-activated AI security concierge. You can go and buy this one right now. It's out there in the market, and it can handle various scenarios such as greeting guests, managing delivery instructions, and crucially maintaining the security and privacy of the physical and digital spaces where it's applied. Highlighting how responsible tech can help drive both innovation and trust. In terms of actionable advice and what to adopt, there are several different things we'd like to impart to you. One of them is adopting a responsible tech playbook. This can involve the ethical structures and frameworks that we talked about earlier, but help your business and team understand how to integrate responsible practices into their projects and the work that they're doing. Secondly, implementing policies around AI use, which can help to tackle things like shadow AI and define clear guidelines for safe and ethical experimentation internally so that innovation is not slowed by these things. Thirdly, to strengthen AI reliability, which Mariano spoke about a little bit before as well. So techniques like evals and guardrails can improve system performance. They can align the outputs with the organizational values. Promoting collaboration between teams. It's such an excellent opportunity to talk to each other, to make sure that you are talking about the values that you hold and building trust with each other and making sure that these technology strategies involve stakeholders from all across the organization. Finally, prioritize training. Although we're a couple of years into this, it's still quite a murky unknown for a lot of folks. So please, I think, consider investing in skill building for teams to manage and measure responsible tech practices effectively, because this really is going to be core to it. It doesn't really matter if you have a framework out there. It matters how everybody understands it and puts it into practice. It is something that matters. It's something that we care deeply about. And it's also something you can come and talk to us about in the breakout session. I'm particularly interested in the security-related parts, but happy to talk about any of it. Thank you.